right. And this is going to be part 2, concrete country elevators and mills. Again, this is Ken Jenkins stuff, his photos and his information, his PowerPoint. I'm just the middle guy who's playing interpreter. So let's see what we've got. Okay, typical modern concrete country elevator. Yeah, starting in the late 40s, they started putting these up. There were companies that went around. One that was worked in Iowa a lot was a company called Tillotson. So a lot of concrete elevators, especially Northwest Iowa, built by them. There you can see some dimensions, 17 foot by 100 foot tall, 116 with the head house. So, and this photo here is in Greenburg, Kansas. Here's, okay, we've got a drawing now. You can see similar to the wood grain elevators, you got separate bins, and you've got the up in the head house, you got the Gerber that turns the discharge pipe from one bin to another. And then they also have a delivery tube for loading of cars, and the underground pit and the drive-through for wagons and trucks to dump grain coming in. So that's so the functioning of these concrete were essentially the same as the wood. They just built out of different material and much larger capacity. So 17 to 30 foot in diameter for each of these round silos. So you can go to your local Home Depot or plumbing supply and pick up some PVC, or actually the sewer pipe is cheaper. It doesn't have to have the same impact resistance as water pipe. And get something, and you walk in there with your HO scale rule and start measuring stuff. They look at you funny, but you can do it. So
Too bad.
another photo of an example. Looks like almost an old boxcar sitting down here. Here's the dust collectors. Must be a small power plant with a stack like that. So, but something that's not overly difficult to model. Of course, Walthers has done an HO and N plastic models of these. Again, he's got another drawing of, I see it's down in Texas, but again, similar, you've got siting here for loading of box cars. Here on the other side is where the tractors and wagons come in to be unloaded. The underground pits, the overhead with the Gerbers up there. So
this is going to describe how they made those tubes, like.
I've never gone through this, but I know how it was done. I applied for a job one summer called a slip form concrete, and I can tell you how it's done if we don't see it here. So,
they date clear back to the 1900s.
Yep.
When the beginning of them were.
Wow. The very first one was done in Minneapolis, about 1904?
Something like that. And
it is still standing. It was along the Minneapolis and St. Louis. It's now apartments of some sort. Somebody's converted into apartment. But here you can do, here what he's showing is here's the buckets that would pull the grain out of that bottom pit, and they go up through that leg up to the top, and the big electric motor and the bearings that all drive all this stuff. Now, I can't tell from this whether, I'm assuming these are on some sort of a belt, usually a canvas or a rubber belt similar to a fan belt material. So it's flexible to go around the wheel here. We must be in the top. Yeah, we're at the vertical. But these belts were also set up so they had a flat platform so a workman could actually go up the shaft by standing on that. And that's how they
at the old elevator in Gladstone, that's how the guy always got up the top.
Yeah. So all right, here's a drawing or sketch for an elevator leg head, he's calling it. But this would be what's up in the head house. And yeah, here your buckets will be coming up through and going down through these two shafts here, your big wheel. And then this is the spout. The wheel would come up, dump those buckets into the spout, and this would go into the Gerber, which would direct it to wherever it needed to be. And then, so. Okay, and of course, Kansas had a lot of these great big, huge, for storing the wheat harvest. They just had huge concrete grain elevators. This one, a 1 million bushel elevator, and this one looks small compared to some of the photos I've seen. Yeah, here's the diagram, the footprint, you might say. You've got 8 silos across 3, so you get 24 silos in there. And here's all the head house mechanisms and stuff, and there's 3 tracks for loading and unloading. So. Okay. It's Grand Island, Nebraska. Enter size bins. So I'm assuming that we get full bins and partial bins the way this looks like. So you don't have a big empty space here in between the round silos. But if I knew more, I'd interpret more. We'll move on. Here's a photo of, look at that, over 2 million bushel. This is in Kansas City, Kansas. The Katy elevator.
Outside braced Katy boxcar.
Yes, it was. Oh, what did we do?
Oh,
Well, let's see. I want to, yeah, this is just another photo of that same Katy elevator. So there we go.
It's like that up in Green Bay, right adjacent to the Green Bay and Western. And there was a problem with dust in there, and it exploded, blew the side right off one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That is a problem with grain elevators in general. Grain dust is very explosive. And we seem to have 1 or 2 of those a year here in Iowa, and they'll blow the side right out of one of these concrete elevators. It's kind of nasty, but anyway, here's what's called the slip form construction process. You start at the bottom, you get steel pans, that's what they call the forms, and these would be curved, and you start stacking them up. You get up so high, and then you start pouring concrete in. That's what this is, a concrete pumper boom. And then as the lower level, as this starts to set up, once it's set up enough, you pull those pans off, and you just stack them up on top of the upper row here, and you just keep building and pouring. It's a continuous pour for 24 hours a day. And you just strip off the pans down below, clean them, hoist them up, stack them up on top of the ones that are there in the middle. And that's why you see all the variations in the color and the levels here. So, and the guys doing this tend to work 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So let's see, we got more photos of some of this. Yeah,
That's
so
one heck of a dangerous job doing that.
Yep. There's a lot of preparation work because you got to get the foundation and everything, all the footings all in first. Then once you start pouring the silo, you don't quit till you get to the top.
Yep.
So, in fact, half the workers will just sleep in their cars, their trucks right on the job site, only go home on the weekend type thing. But here you can see the process as I described it. You get there's a platform fastened to the forms of the pans, so they have something they can stand on, constantly putting in the reinforcement bar, and they're pouring on the concrete that's drying below them. They leave the bottom of the form fastened to that dried concrete, and they keep stacking it up, and then this one's more fancy. It's using lift wires and a crane to keep sliding the form up. I see how they're doing this. Oh, well, I described an older way. And of course,
No.
there you go, a grain dust explosion. This one blew the top out,
Oh, my
but
God.
you can see
Oh,
it's extremely explosive. It just so nothing, and any spark at all will set it off. So
Yep.
Happened to
Yep.
Manitowoc, and they could see the explosion from the other side of the lake.
oh, my God. Oh,
yeah, because you get a huge cloud of dust, huge cloud.
yeah.
So plus the fire and the smoke and everything else. Grain is also flammable. So once you spark it, it explodes and then the stuff will burn. So, yeah. All right, prototype practice loading and unloading. We'll see what he's got here. Ah, yes. What's in those freight cars? Here we see a boxcar being unloaded with a power shovel. This pipe standing here has got a pulley up on top, a cable coming off the top of it fastened to this board with a couple of handles. And this guy, it's called a power shovel. He'll walk back up onto the top pile of grain in the back of the boxcar, jam basically this piece of plywood or steel down into the grain. And then this guy out here will kick the switch and start the winch that will start pulling the chain or cable and pull this board towards the door as this guy holding onto the handles guides it out towards the door and dumping it into the pit underneath. And that's what they call a power shovel. I also see right in here is a chute for loading the boxcar. It's got the flexible, kind of like a bucket without a bottom, a whole bunch of them fastened together for a flexible chute. So
I went to school out in Nebraska for a year, and they were hiring some of the college guys to help unload cars like that. And by the time we got done in the evening, I had an asthmatic attack that would kill any 10 men. It was terrible because of all the dust.
yeah, I can see both these guys are both wearing dust masks of some sort, a kerchief or something, but yeah, it's as you study this grain industry, it's an interesting thing to study. Now here's more of a mechanical unloader. I don't quite know. He's got a magazine photo, so it must be an article or or the photo came out of this particular magazine. So yeah, they tried vacuums and okay, here's another shot of that power shovel. This one looks like it's a steel one there. You can see the cable is just fastened to a joint right in the middle of that. And you can see the guy with the handles and his mask. And he, once he gets to the door, then they turn off the winch or they loosen the cable and he walks back up in there, jams it down in, and they pull it forward again. So, and here we are loading a boxcar. You can see the flexible spout coming down, see the grain doors all fastened in place here. The workman's got a little platform and a short ladder. And then this stick is fastened to the bottom of the chute. And he could aim that chute to any corner in that boxcar that he wants. And the grain is coming down so fast that it will come out of that chute and go to the corner of that boxcar. So I know I have in my collection a photo that was taken from inside the boxcar of that grain coming out. So, and then of course here either the elevator manager or the agent or whatever watching things. So, and here we are filling hopper cars. They've opened the trough roof, and again they're using that chute and they're just manipulating. And this fellow, that might be a vibrator of some sort that he's sticking down in there is vibrating to get the grain to settle down in and fill all the crevices and corners.
Yeah, like doing concrete.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it looks like there's some sort of pneumatic control and stuff here that he's got in his hands, a handle. So that's what makes me think that's a vibrator. I've used them in concrete before, but never in grain.
Yeah.
And it looks like maybe there's even someone up here with a camera on a tripod taking pictures.
Yep.
Good thing that somebody took pictures.
Looks
Wow.
pretty cold out there.
Yes, well,
Yeah,
yeah, so,
I think you
We-
can see the guy's breath on the left.
yeah, so. Well, now
We
we're
wa-
going to go into, some of his fabulous models. I see we got some information here on the towns that he's modeling: Clay Center, Morganville, Clifton, and Belleville, as you may remember from the last presentation. And he's giving you some general dimensions and how much they hold. So let's move forward and see what we got. Okay, this is the co-op at Clay Center, Kansas. 1/3 million bushel capacity, and you can, the prototype up here in the corner, and then his model. Like I said, I've seen his layout, and read the articles. His modeling is just fantastic. For the piping and railings and the head houses up here and all that stuff. So.
Hmm.
There's a detail shot of the bays to go in and dump, and not sure about the vintage of this car with the pickups, but we won't.
It's got grain dust on.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, and I don't remember which era this paint scheme on the Rock Island was. But
That's a 70 Chevelle.
yep. And here we get, his head house.
Butternut yellow.
Yes, yes, so. This looks like he's probably doing this out of styrene. It's, might have done it out of mat board, but I think it's styrene from the looks of it.
Hmm.
He's just using tubes and a flat piece, cutting some plastruck angles and this looks complex, but really it's got basically round and flat shapes. Cutting and gluing together. Didn't even get the pipes on the railings lined up. That's the problem with the camera. You take a close up and you suddenly see the mistakes you made.
Mhm.
Not that Les or Mont know anything about that. Their photos are all perfect, right?
After the fourth or fifth time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
On the other hand, maybe the real one had exactly that problem.
Well, it could have, you're right, Ken, it could have, so. Okay, here's a nice shot of along the loading, and notice even the openings there for the manway, so when this is empty, someone can actually go in and inspect the bottom of it if need be. Clean it out, so. And got some rust and other things there, so some nice modeling. Now, let's see, okay, here's another one at Clay Center. 94-foot tall silos, a Perina Chow's. And there's a tractor and wagon. We got the grain dryers, the grain leg, the old wooden elevator back here. Oh yeah, this is the one that had the hooker tank car. We
Mhm.
talked about that the last time. So. And there's the prototype. So now you can see what oh, this is a lumber yard, a lumber shed.
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
Hadn't caught that before. Yeah, a typical co-op would, they would be selling grain, lumber, anything that the
Sure.
members wanted to buy. Ah. Yeah. There's another shot of it. There's the other side. Again, you can see the old wood elevator there and the concrete, and then he's got a steel bin. The more modern. You get the pipes coming down. You can see the outrigging wiring and the supports, what we would call tension rods. If you're an old time modeler for boxcars, that would keep the pipe straight. This would be, let's see, that looks like a green vacuum for when you have spillage, you can tow it around somewhere and vacuum up the mess.
Mm.
So, and a lot of your large co-ops would have those, particularly if they were if they had a problem, somebody had a problem with wagon or truck and they had to go out and empty it, they would use this grain vacuum to unload the disabled wagon and load it into another vehicle to get it into town.
Yeah.
And that's a detail I have not seen modeled very often, so.
You notice the box cars there?
I'll go back. These box cars over here?
Yes. Yeah. There's a cut of them there. They're all too big.
They're
The
too
the
big.
elevators I'm familiar with wouldn't load anything other than a 6-foot door opening.
Ah, okay. Yep, they had a problem with anything beyond 6 doors because the standard green door was a 6-foot, designed for a 6-foot
Right.
opening. They'd have to put a post in there and use twice as many green doors.
Mhm.
Yep. Unless they're using the more modern cardboard, paper and steel wrap strapping. And some of those are designed for larger doors, but it's a good point, Mott. Thank you. Yep, here's that chemical car, Hooker Chemicals. Yep, that's clearly looks a lot like lumber storage, or might be being used for feed, sacks of feed.
Mhm.
He's got a couple bins in here, the old steel starting to corrode. The close-up of his head house. And you can see the conveyor going out across. You would have a pipe coming down out of the head house and this conveyor, and it would move, and then these support legs are actually pipes going into the different bins, would be my interpretation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you can see some of that. Here's an exposed Gerber. Have something in a mechanism inside a disc that would have different holes in it, or one hole, and you'd spin it around till you get to the one pipe you want, and that hole would be open, and the grain would flow through. You guys correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So there's the prototype. Okay, now we've moved into the other elevator in Clay Center. Nice, the wheat stalks painted on the ends here. Farmers Co-op. Again, you get the enclosed conveyor with the pipes going down each bin, plus the various walkways. And here's the prototype.
Were the silo caps made out of concrete also?
As far as I know, they were. They would have probably have built some sort of a wood structure underneath and just poured off a flat surface and then removed the structure.
Okay.
They must be edged with something different, because look at the prototype picture. It looks like it's bolted. Bolted in place.
Yeah, that does look like there's supports up in there. You see
No.
one there and there, and
Steel tabs or something.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, that certainly looks like a steel top.
Mhm.
you know, it very well could be. I've never been on top of one, and I was never around one when it was finished, so I can't say.
Mhm.
But I do have a series of photos that were taken from the top of one as it was being constructed, so I may have to go through those photos and look. I'll have to do that. Let's see, okay, here we, just another detail shot. Again, some of Ken's modeling and 25-foot tall head house and different size of silos. He's got shorter ones, taller ones, and these are bigger diameter, so this place has expanded and grown through the years. And there's his prototype photo. The detail. The unloading spouts and the drive-through with the dump inside for. There's the prototype of the spout. Okay, this is Morganville, Kansas. And I like his weathering here, showing where there might have been a cold link in the concrete here where they didn't quite get it in there soon enough, and it was already starting to set up. They got a cold joint, and the weathering is, or they just got a lot of rust in the rock they used in that particular batch. Showing some rust coming through. And notice the grain leg on this one is painted green instead of blue. And we got an enclosed walkway for the conveyor crossing between the two sets of pipes. There's the grain dryer down here. And there's the prototype.
Is it possible they could have extended them?
Well, that's an interesting question, Les. It's, if they could have gotten a good solid connection between the two.
Yep.
Concrete, because that old concrete, if they could cut a keyway in it or get, reinforcement so that the new concrete would not slide off one way or the other. Yeah, it's highly possible that's what was done. Because you can see that dark line, it's all at the same height on that prototype, so. Well, the next time you run into Ken, you'll have to ask him.
I'll ask my friend who's an engineer and built some of them.
Okay, yeah. Here's that grain leg. Here's his grain dryer.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. It's not quite equivalent to the stuff Ron told us that guy was doing. What was his name, Ron? Johnson?
Down in Florida. Tom
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah, this grain dryer doesn't have quite the detail, but it represents what would be there.
I think it's just the Walther's common dryer, but I don't know that Tom added more stuff to it or not. Lonnie is the guy who is the real expert on the grain dryers.
Yes, on the one brand, he just, yeah, so. Okay, and here's the prototype. So you can see, you can see what he's. Of course, the prototype, these sides would all be a perforated or vented steel, so you could draw the air through with these big fans for drying the grain, whereas he's just used probably styrene with a groove styrene of some sort, but it gives you the look. Sometimes that's what we're after in our modeling. So here we come to the Clifton Co-op. 3 groups of 95-foot tall plus a 25-foot tall head house. I mean, these things are towering over these HO cars. That just, and here's a string of box cars plus the covered hoppers. He's got a oil jobber here, so there's 1 tank car here, probably. If it's a co-op, they're probably selling fuel to the local farmers. So,
How long would they keep the grain in these towers? They just put them in there and store it, or do they just transfer from the farm to here to the cars?
Well, yeah, they are used for storage and it might be there for, depending on what market prices are doing and
Right.
how quickly they need to move the grain to get more capacity. It might be there a few days a week, or it could be there a couple months. So
Right.
I remember one church I was at, we got a donation of grain to the church, and it was delivered to the local elevator. And we hung on to that for a long time thinking, prices are going to go up. When we sold it, the prices had dropped.
No,
And the farmer had given it, says, yeah, I did the same thing. I thought prices are going to go up too, and it dropped.
no.
But whether it was the exact same corn that he had delivered that fall that we sold the next spring, I don't know. They're constantly filling cars and shipping stuff in and out. So I think stuff is cycling through until you get to the springtime when the big grain movement's over. And there's always a rush about the end of July to get all these things emptied out so they
Mhm.
can take in the new fall crop.
Mm.
I'm thinking corn and soybeans. For wheat's a little bit different season, but it's the same process. So, but that's a good question. Okay, there's the prototype there at Clifton. And here's his model of the grain dryer there. And the pipe for loading the boxcars and covered hoppers. Okay, and there we got, here's the prototype for the grain dryer. You can see it's a different style and design. This looks more like the kind that Lonnie builds models of, doesn't it, Ron?
Well, a
Because
good
this
question.
is a round dryer.
Yeah.
So.
I don't really know the answer to that.
Okay, well, we'll move on.
Mhm.
There's the head of the grain leg. So. All right, now we've moved on to Belleville, Kansas, the United Grain. Look at that, 3.5 million bushel capacity. And again, the prototype. Another view of that concrete silos, and then he's got the storage buildings here as well. I'm not sure what he's trying to model over here on this side of the. Yeah,
It's the water supply.
yeah.
That's it's gonna take 3 or 4 of those HO guys to turn that valve.
Oh, yeah.
Aircraft loading.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they needed the irrigation there.
Well, yeah, in Kansas, that might be true. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So, okay. There's a picture of the prototype. Look at those long storage buildings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just. Okay, and this is a different elevator in the same town in Kansas. And you can see the central, and then you got 2 different components on either side of the concrete silos. And it looks like, yeah, it's affiliated with Purina Chow's, the checkerboard. Keep forgetting, I'm looking at my screen as well as the screen you're looking at. So yeah, the checkerboard there. And here's the prototype.
Wow.
Look at, they get the loading spout coming out so looks like they can load 2 or 3 tracks at the same time. So, but it also looks kind of overgrown with weeds and hasn't been used for a while. So. Okay, where does the grain go? See if we get an answer here. Kansas City, Argentine Yard, elevator A. Those of you who know Chuck Hitchcock, he
Mhm.
modeled this at one time.
Yep.
Large storage units, over 6 million bushel. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we got a drawing for elevator A. 6 tracks for dumping. Look at all the silos there. You'd have to buy a lot of plumbing pipe. Working house, shops, boiler. The dumper shed and working house, okay. A lot of lines in this drawing. I can't quite make out what everything is. All right, so he's going to tell us about how he constructed his model of elevator A, it looks like. So, yeah, I don't know if he's using round plumbing pipe or if he's actually taking styrene and shaping it into a cylinder. You could do it probably either way, and then he's obviously see he's glued a little strip in here in the middle. And just a flat, thick piece on for the roofing. There's his model of his head house. Simple styrene box with a window popped in there. And okay, that's the interior. Wow, he's even modeling the inside of that house. Oh,
Pretty neat.
I suppose with that big window, you could actually see a little bit of that. Yeah, we got the answer to our question. He's using plumbing pipe. And boy, is he cutting out a disc that fits inside and gluing it to a larger flat piece so it'll fit on top and
Yeah,
be
looks like.
centered?
Yep,
Yeah.
removable tops, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's making a base with an insert to sit each piece of pipe on, and then his roof is got the same insert cut out and glued, so that makes
Good
it almost
place.
simple.
It's a good place to put your valuables.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. Hide the wife's Christmas present in there. She'll never find it.
No kidding.
Or your stash of chocolate bars, whichever you're trying to keep hidden.
Might be liquid too.
Well, yeah, you could fit a bottle in there pretty easy. You suppose the height of his elevators are measured by either a beer bottle or wine bottle or
Yeah.
so. Yeah, he's just using that looks like he might be using the thin wall PVC, which would be for sewer pipe. So. Oh, there you go.
All right. Yeah.
So I'll stop sharing and
Very nice.
yeah, I wish I knew the full story to go with it, but we gave you a little taste of concrete grain elevators. Now Ron can go and build his model.
Right. Well, thank you,
I'm
Doug.
thinking-
Nice job.
Thank
Thinking
you.
about building one.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss in modeling northern Michigan. There's not a lot of elevators. I have pictures from Lloyd that there was an elevator in Power, so that's going to be on the layout eventually. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure what it probably was a feed company or something. But
You might have had you might want to look more into feed mills because you had a lot of livestock raised up in dairy cattle, etc. That you
Yeah.
would have grain hauled in and feed mills.
Yeah. They,
would have.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks for filling in, Doug. I haven't heard
Oh.
from Keith, but I'm sure I probably should have given him a little more of a reminder. And so I'll take responsibility for that. And we'll put him on the 25th.
Yep. I'll bet he's just thinking 7:30 Central Time.
He might be. Or, he did get on this morning because I get a notice when people come on.
Aha.
And I don't think he would think that we were meeting in the morning, but who knows? So
Yep.
we'll work all that out. Next week, we have John Golden is finally going to present, and he swears he's going to do it this time. He's going to present on his switching layout he's been working on. So I've had several people ask me where the recording of that is, because we've announced it several times. And so I always tell them, what do you mean? Keep looking. You just don't know how to use the directory. That's all. And so anyway, we'll have that next week. And thanks everybody for coming. We are scheduled through May, but we have openings in June. So if you want to present, let me know and I'll put you on the list. It's
Oh,
always
by
fun.
I'm sorry. I sent an email back to everyone. The correct name of the company is AK Innovative. You'll see it.
Yeah, they got a
Interactive,
line
I
of
think is
paint
what
out
you
as
put.
well, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's AK Interactive.
Interactive. Thank you.
They're big with the war. They're big with the war gamers, and they've got a lot of interesting paint sets.
They do. Don't they
Yeah,
really? I mean,
I always love those references, find a hobby shop that caters to the military modelers, and finding a hobby shop in Iowa is a challenge, let alone the one that caters to military modelers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tell
called
the
the
military
internet.
modelers to look for the railroad stuff. So
Yeah, so, well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys stayed around. That was fun to go through more on the elevators, and next week, if you get in a bind, Greg, I'll pull up the photos of the one being constructed in Ocheyedan, Iowa that
all
I've
right,
got.
good. Well,
So-
we've got you in our hip pocket if we need you. So thanks, Doug.
And one more thing. One more
Okay.
thing. The grain elevator that was down here in south of Valpo in Malden in the 1960s, they put up a continuous cast concrete grain elevator. And when they put it up, the newspaper described it as using the Edison method. Tom Edison invented continuous cast concrete when he worked with Portland Cement.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And in town here, Joe Urschel, or not Joe Urschel, who's the founder of Urschel, they make food vegetable cutting equipment. They're the ones that put the angle on beans for the Green Giant. Okay. Anyway, they make this equipment, and the guys were all inventors. The father and the sons all invented things, and they came up with the first in town here. They came up with a continuous cast garage, a 2-car garage that had these lovely round sides to it because they were experimenting with it. And of course, the people who owned the building now tore it down because it was in the way. But anyway, he was friends with Edison. So that's how he figured out how to do it. I think they talked.
Didn't Edison develop a house, a concrete house like that?
Edison developed houses in Gary, and Greg, you may know about them, that were cast pretty much as one piece.
Yeah.
They put up,
they're still standing. They're abandoned, most of them, but they're still standing.
right. They put the forms together, and then they started pouring concrete in, and they used a mechanical vibrator to get the air bubbles out. They put rebar in like crazy and did the whole thing pretty much in a series of pours over a 2-day period.
Well, that's how you do foundations today. I worked for a company doing basements. You put up the forms, you get everything put in together, and then you start pouring the concrete. Then you use vibrators to move it. A house would just require some more walls and openings for the doorways and windows and stuff, but yeah.
Well,
Plan it ahead of time, you can do it.
the one in Malden got torn down a couple years ago, which really surprised me because I drove by and they had put an addition onto the back of it. And then we went down to Malden to visit somebody, and the original one was torn down. Well, I found out that the roof over each of those silos was a pan roof, steel pan roof that they poured concrete on. The steel pan wasn't galvanized and it rusted, and it evidently flaked into the grain at times.
No.
Okay, so I guess they had to tear the thing down. There were some other issues. I don't know what they were, but it was an innovative thing back when they did it, and it made the newspaper. And I remember the Edison method.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah,
Very good.
I got trivia up my butt.
Yeah, we're not looking.
Sounds
Okay.
sounds like a
Good
personal
idea.
problem. All right, we'll reconvene next week. Thanks everybody for joining. Doug, thanks again. We'll see you next Thursday.
Sure.
Take care, gang.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.